Hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey today. I say us because we have an incredible Outliers Edge roundtable where I brought in two amazing outliers to talk about their experience, how they've continued to navigate their world, reinvent themselves, and continue to up level in both income and impact. Let's give you a chance to get to know our guests today. Sue, why don't we start with you? Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really do feel like an outlier, so I feel like I'm in my own space. So I appreciate this very much. My name is Sue Janzen. I'm from way up northern in Alberta, Canada, which is just like so north of Montana. And just happy to be here. And I have a few things. I have a podcast that I have a weekly podcast. And I think it fits so well with what your introduction just earlier. It's my podcast is called Living and Loving Each Day, Bridging Barriers. And the reason I have the bridging barriers part specifically is I deal with parents who have children with adaptive needs. And also, I talk a lot to adults with adaptive needs, the neurodiverse, the ADHD adults, anybody who's overcoming. And when you talked about earlier too, when we were chatting, you were talking about changing directions and transitioning in your life. And so those barriers for me are things that through childhood trauma and all the things I've gone through them and over them and made them better and learned from them. And so and I do coaching as well in that vein. So it all just kind of is fitting really nicely, I feel. So that's me a little bit. And I'm a big band singer. I can't leave that out because that's my passion is singing, and you can't shut me up. I mean, I can't stop singing. So I think
That's
that's, yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, Sue. I sang in a barbershop chorus for several years,
Ooh.
so I love the element of the big band
What
thing.
did you sing? Bass?
I
Bass
was a bass
baritone?
singer. Yep, I was a bass singer, and it was top 10 in the world. So we got a chance to play. It was like really fun. You know,
Good.
the challenge of improvement is a great thing. I think that's why we're all here, right? Because y'all took on that challenge of improvement over and over again. Why don't we then? Thank you so much, Sue. Why don't we get to know Elizabeth here? Elizabeth, do you mind sharing more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on and welcome meeting both of you. Susan, you are definitely a key to my heart. I am Elizabeth Morgan. I am the owner and operator of Dandelion North in Germantown, North Carolina. I've operated for over 21 years. I do run two different podcasts. One is Just Dandy, and the other one is The Notebook Plan. I'm active on YouTube. You can also locate Dandelion North on YouTube as well. And of course, we have an active website, naturally, dandelionnorth.com. But just look at me as your practical apothecary. I love working with people and sharing the knowledge that's already there. We have a vast amount of plants and remedies throughout the world. I think a lot of confusion is people underestimate the ability of an actual herbalist and practicing apothecary because we're not just about plants, although we are the bridge. I call myself the bridge between the person and the need and the remedy and the plant, whatever the case may be. Specifications, preparation, how to apply, how not to use, and the purpose of it. So, as to answer all those questions, I've done many different jobs in my life and actively doing them all. Avid quilter, sewer, teacher, counselor, guidance. It just depends on what the day is and what the need is. Uh, Maybe I'm the chumped up soccer mom. Who knows? Never was a soccer mom, but I could play the sport, right? The I am a big fan of music, and I am audible, or a lot of people call me animated, because I really, a lot of times I talk with my hands, but I act things out because I'm ADD.
Ah, awesome.
And I have to overcome a lot of things that have geared me into a position in life to where I use ADD to my advantage rather than looking at it as a disadvantage. And anything else, I mean, I think the main thing with ADD is the focus, staying focused, pulling things in and keeping them aligned, staying organized. But as far as my craft and what I do and the things I've guided people in business, I've taught people about the business, shared the knowledge, and how to become an entrepreneur, how to work at what you need to do, as well as focus on your health, nutrition, your family, your pets, and those around you. Be a great friend, be an incredible family member, and love yourself.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So, Sue and Elizabeth, we're gonna have a great conversation here. We're gonna have a we have time for a couple questions that to go, and I want to just get to see and understand how you all go about things. So, um, before we hit record, the idea of reinvention came into space, and I think that there are a lot of outliers out here who have consistently had to reinvent or choose new things along the way, especially as they've continued to grow. And so, I wanted to ask you here. I want to get a chance to see like a belief that you had, right? That actually needed to be almost reinvented in order for like your next level, the reinvention that you're currently taking on right now, to really set in, right? So, what's a belief that you had that was key to you actually reinventing yourself the way that you are right now? Right? Let me know if that question is clear overall. Yeah. All right, so why don't we start with you and then we'll go over to Elizabeth.
I think the belief that I've always had from a child in foster care and then getting married early with two babies and getting a divorce and everything that I encountered my whole life, my belief was that I can do this and I can do this on my own. And I think as a child, I was in like the courts deem me as neglected and abandoned. So I feel like anything that happened, I just knew that I was the only one that was going to do it. So my belief has always been that I can do whatever what I want. I have a deep faith as well, and I just believe that I can. Okay, next, just bring it on. It's not a problem. I don't see it as a problem, and like the ADHD as well. Like I don't see it as a barrier. I just really see it as an opportunity to grow and to let's just do this. I can do this. That's my belief.
Thanks, Sue. How about you, Elizabeth? What's a belief that you've had to like reinvent as you've been reinventing yourself?
When I began, mine all came from when I was a child. I had eczema and psoriasis, and I overcame that. And I was given that information by a older lady who was wisdom. And at that time, even when I was coming up in the 80s, 60s, and 80s, it was a curious thing to advise someone to go find someone who made goat milk soap, and that would cure it up. I was willing to buy a case, and even at young age of 15, at that time when I was given that, I sought out what I needed to. I mean, I remember the very first bar that I bought, I had to order from Germany, and at that time, one of those little bars was over $7. Well, I was 15. I worked a public job. I'd worked since under a permit. I'd worked before the permit. So I've worked my whole life to earn money. I was raised in that period of time when you work for what you really, really want and you work hard and you don't complain and you be grateful. So having been rooted from those same, those same principles, it restored my belief that if you seek, you will find. It was just that simple. So my belief was anytime that you want something, break hell wide open if you need to. Don't let anybody make you believe that you can't. The very first thing that I would tell everybody is the word no means on. If you're ADD, then be dyslexic. Read it backwards.
Oh, I
You
like this. Yeah. I was like,
know,
you,
it
you
is
said
on.
the word no means that. I was like, wait a minute, how? Like, so,
Means on. If someone tells you no, turn it on. Flip it. Flip the switch. You are the no. If you believe that if you accept no, then that's a personal choice. And any time that we pursue anything in our life, we have to pursue it for our own reasons. As far as reinventing and the belief, I started out my mission to share the knowledge with anyone who was seeking it, to find people who believe like I did that there is a cure for everything, that there is a fix for everything. And if there isn't a cure, then at least make it feel better. And I can live with that. Um, and then, as far as along the way, my journey along the way, the reinventing or changing, even when you are just ready to throw in the towel, shut the doors, have a fire sale, and say, "That is it. I'm done. I just can't take it anymore." I'm telling you, God creates us all with skills and gifts. And what's going to happen as soon as that thought even just races through your mind, something is going to come up. You're going to get a phone call. Somebody's going to be knocking on the shop door. You're going to receive a text message. You're going to get an email. Something is going to fire you up. It's going to, because what happens is when you're working and working, you're working so hard and you're just staying in it and you're in the game and you're viciously giving all you got. And you just, I'll try this. I'll try that. I'll try this. I'll try that. And right when you are just ready to just pack it up, suddenly everything comes to fruition. All that effort, all that energy, all that input that you were doing, it catches up. Because what people forget is when you're building momentum, when you're climbing climbing and you are pushing hard, you're racing hard, you're digging in deep, now you're clawing and you're really getting to the top of that mountain. And just like a roller coaster, when you hit that top, you finally hear that click. And that's momentum, because inertia and a
Oh, been
momentum,
there.
you're going to
Yeah.
fly. So
Yeah.
what happens is you're moving so fast sometimes that the world has to catch up to you. And that's what it's about. Don't, don't just when you just need to park it. Sometimes we all need a reset. And what I mean by reset is I don't mean stop. I mean sit down, breathe, and just let the world pour
Gotcha.
over you.
I
Yeah,
like
just
that
let
here. Uh,
sit in the rain if you need to, but let it
yeah.
pour over you. And when it does, everything that you've been doing, all that work, it will catch up. And then even when you want to give up, when you're tired of it, you're sick, you're burned out, things are going to occur. You're going to get that call, that email, that text message. They need what you have. And they've been looking for you. And I'm telling you, it is the biggest adrenaline rush. That dopamine, that all you need is that little drop of dopamine that hits you, because when someone needs you, guess what? You're going you're just like
Ready
brand
to
new all
go.
over again.
I love that here. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for bringing that in here. So I'm sure there's a number of different parts that resonated with you on it. I want to to ask you, a couple of questions real quick here, which is like you talked about bridging bridging barriers for yourself, right? Tell me more about you had the chance to do just about anything. From what I'm getting from you, your life is one where like you have actively created the life that you have right now, right? Share with me like here around like what brought you into the work that you do now, and yeah, we'll start off with that, and I'm gonna ask you a follow up on that.
Okay, sure. My daughter has had a baby, and when the baby girl was 8 weeks old, she had near SIDS, so that's sudden infant death syndrome. But what we learned in the hospital is when we were there, she was revived by the ambulance driver, and so she was stopped breathing, but she was breathing at the hospital. And for 5 weeks actually, we were at the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton. And it took 3 days before we even knew that she was going to live. So, and what happened was that because of the occipital brain damage and parietal brain damage, she has cerebral palsy now and she has cortical vision impairment. She sees lights and colors, but she doesn't see us. So, so when that happened, and now just to let you know, she's thriving and she's just beautiful, and she's 12. She's in grade 7.
I want to
So
hear that.
she's so wonderful. She can't see or walk, but she's just like our joy. Anyway, so my daughter had started a nonprofit because she wanted to find a place where Kalea is my granddaughter's name, where she could play, because there was like no place that she could take her that would be safe. Like if you go to a park, the swings are going and everything's hard. You can't get the wheelchair in there. So she wanted to create a nonprofit called I Can Play Too, with the number 2. And so at that time, I wanted to help her any way I could. And I thought, as a singer and a professional singer for 20 years on stage 6 nights a week. I mean, for me, a podcast was just such a no-brainer. I thought, let me do a podcast for you with your parents, so the parents can tell their stories. And I just thought that was so powerful, not just for the audience, but for the parents, because they feel like they're alone and they feel isolated with their child and they don't even know what questions to ask to get help. So we wanted to provide that. My daughter's nonprofit wanted to provide that, and I wanted to help. And so I started doing podcasts in that vein. And so I kind of went crazy and enjoyed it so much. I had a photographer from New York on one day, and I had a beautiful herbalist from Dublin, Ireland on another day. I was like broadening, everyone was calling me to be on it. And I was going, oh, yeah, hey, yes, let's just go. I loved it. But my daughter finally said to me, not just a few weeks ago, Mom, like, I want you to do those podcasts for me again. Like, let's focus. I'm ADHD, as you can tell, too. So I'm all over the map. So I just started, I thought, okay, I'm going to change my living to loving, leaving and loving each day to living in each other. I can't even talk, living and loving each day, bridging barriers and focus just on my daughter and on people who are overcoming. So that's kind of why I made that decision to go this way. And so this is fairly new. Like my podcast, I've done 120 podcasts, not as many as you, I know that, but so this is kind of the direction I'm getting now, just a little more focused on people who are survivors of adversity in whatever that form that takes.
There's something in there. Thank you for bringing in your story. I think there's one of the things that struck me was the idea of like the how things kind of evolved, right? You came in and you're like, I want to contribute in a meaningful way. And then it seemed like you were getting some traction. It feels like you were getting some like kind of stuff, and you found more about like what would work for you. Um, I would love for you like to talk about the. I think as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about different outliers who are on the precipice or like should I go into something or should I not? I don't really know anything about it right now, or like it's something new for me to get into. And so I'm going to start with you, Sue, and then I'll go to Elizabeth because I think Elizabeth's really good at like being able to take on new things as well. Um, Tell if you can talk about like the journey of like I guess it's almost like beginning as a beginner again. And then like the progress of discovering what it actually is through you have 120 episodes. You're like still like, hey, by the way, 115 episodes went by, and then I realized, this is what this thing actually is. Can you speak to that? Because I think there's a lot of pressure to like get everything right. Know exactly who your avatar is. Know exactly what your offers are. Like, don't even start before you do any of those things. And I I really enjoy the evolution of what you had. So why don't we start with you, Sue, then we go to you, Elizabeth, to build on that.
Yeah. I think the people you're talking to when you say that are those perfectionistic people, and they really want to do it right before they actually step out and do it. And I just want to encourage you out there. You got to step out. You got to at least try. And what happens is you learn if you're confident enough to learn as you grow and to know that, okay, I'm going to do this baby step now, and then I'm going to do that baby step, and I'm going to gather the information as I go, that gives you that confidence to actually move forward and get better and better at what you're doing. Nobody starts off as a perfect whatever they're doing. So we just have to remember that and just know that whatever we do. I had an audition actually for one of my gigs. I'll just tell you a short little story where there was this big, huge West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton, Alberta is like huge. Minnesota has that big mall too. Um, and all the owners of that mall said, okay, we want a singer for our lounge to open it up. And I was in a 5-piece at the time, my own band. And so my agent said to me, Sue, we don't have a lot of work for your 5-piece right now because it was kind of the market was kind of dying out. Disc jockeys were coming in. And so she said, if you could play piano and then I could get you this gig, it's like a lot of money, and I was a single mom, 2 kids. So I said, okay. And so the only song I knew was Color My World from Chicago, like on piano. If you guys know that song, if you're old enough. And so that's the only song I knew. So I thought, yeah, so this is my example is that I went to this audition. All these big wigs were there at the piano bar, And I just started singing as time goes on. And I started singing this tune and I ended it thinking, Lord, don't let them ask me to do another song because I don't have one. Like I only know this one song on keyboard, right? I could play Ain't No Sunshine on the bass, but that's all I could do. So anyway, I finished my song. They stood up and they all said, you're hired, you're good. And they all started walking out. I'm going, oh, I was so glad that they didn't ask me to do anything else. The agent called me right away and said, hey, you must have done really well because they really liked you. And I was just great. So now I'm doing a grand opening of this huge mall in Edmonton, Alberta. And then I realized I got to run home and learn 30 songs now because I got 4 hours a night, 6 nights a week, right? But that's how I go. I just really honestly believe I can do whatever I need to do. And so that was one of my big, not being a perfectionist. If I had been a perfectionist, like, and a really polished musician, I'd never have, still don't call myself a musician, but that wouldn't have happened. And I couldn't have supported my kids. I wouldn't have had the income to support my kids. So it's just a thought thing. It's just a mindset, I think.
I appreciate you bringing it in. I'm going to go to Elizabeth to see something similar. But one of the things that gets me as you're talking about this is like the element of I say we're already ready. It's like you had enough to get you to whatever the next stage was, and then that created enough room for you to go do a whole lot of work, like to go learn. Like so you ended up at the end of the day being able to play 30 different songs on the piano, right?
No problem.
No problem, right? Like when that was a problem, when that was the issue, then you addressed it. But what I'm hearing from you is like I had enough to get me at least through the song, and I'm gonna let them decide rather than like take myself out of the game. I like to put that in here, outliers, because there's a lot of us that might be feeling that right now, especially with like the success that we've had. But you're like you had success and you still had to go forward with it. Thank you, Sue. Elizabeth, how about you? Like, let us know about something that continued to evolve with you here. Like what, yeah, I'd love for you to take the conversation as well.
In the beginning, I started out with I had already decided, okay, number one, I'm not going to like throw all this money in there and just I jump in feet first as people assume that I do because they look at me as an extrovert. And I have an outgoing personality. I love people, and I want everybody to be happy. And I think of the group. I think of people as a whole, not as all right, just it's good enough for one, not another, but to stay focused on what I was saying is when I went into my business, I literally if I had to pick a number, if somebody said, how much did it take you to start your business? $6. Okay. The larger one that we're talking about that is now called Dean Line North is actually known as Dean Line Soap Herb Shop. But to recently I changed it. The beginning of this year, I changed it to Dean Line North. There's a little more upspeed, more contemporary, modern with what people are into now. But my true business name is a lot larger. Um, so I started out with $6. I had like 5 different soaps. But what I've shared with people is just like with Susan, you kind of thrown into that fire and okay, what do you do now? You got to start running on top of the flames. So what happened is I'm trying to learn how to just make goat milk soap at that time. That was all my focus was. You're talking 21 years ago. It's all my focus was is just teaching myself how to make soap because everyone I knew that knew how to do that art was gone. I was really, truly naked and afraid on my own. So I taught myself how to make soap. There's a story behind that, but the bottom line is, along the path of teaching myself how to make the soap, I learned how everything you could possibly think about, every oil, essential oil, refined oils, pressed oils. Learned all kinds of herbs, all the leaves, all what does what, plants, flowers, you name it. I learned everything but how to make soap. So along my journey in trying to learn how to make soap, I learned about everything, all the other raw ingredients that make so much more incredible things. So when I opened a little storefront, I actually opened a little storefront and it was a 82-year-old, actually hang to. It was a produce stand. People caught the train there, and they put a hot plate for sandwiches. Beautiful, very charming. Just the dirt and rust. I love the smell of dirt and rust. And I am using a hot plate to make big batches of soap. We're talking lye soap. This stuff goes to 250 degrees instantly. It is a live liquid acid. It will burn to the bone and keep going on into the ground. It's lye. So, what I'm saying is, so here's the journey. I'm now got this storefront, got like 5 little soaps. I have all these other things. I have medicines, I have plants, I have tinctures and remedies and elixirs and salves and all these things. And I really truly loved natural first aid. Well, I knew that my specialty was focusing on the getting rid of eczema and psoriasis. I can actually say cure on here, curing eczema and psoriasis in any trace or scars. So I started specializing in that. But the truth of the matter was, I was so much larger than that. I truly was an herbalist and did medicine, but I was born into it. I grew up following my grandma with a little knife and a bag, and her knee highs up to her knees. And her, like she's got a little apron on, and she's toting this knife. I mean, you can get killed, right? She's toting this knife. I'm just following her. And she's muttering and tickling the leaves and the plants. And she's just muttering. Now, I don't know what it is we're looking for. She knows. And so when she hands you this baggie and she tells you how you prepare it and how you use it, you don't question it. We respected our elders. You do it because grandma said to. You do it
Yep.
because mama said to. You did it because great grandma said to. And that's how my beginning. I was raised on a farm. We were self reliant, self sufficient, milk cows, pigs, the whole thing. So when she handed me these leaves in a bag, I trusted her. I was fixing to administer this to my infant child. So I think I was a keeper of the plants all along. And so what happens then is you make it. So I make this soap, I'm telling everybody how it can fix this problem, that problem. And I've made all these other products. And then someone comes in and they have another problem. Well, that creates another product. So now I'm researching and I'm making this and I'm refining because you are alchemists. You're like mixing and formulating and researching and referencing. And I'll have 5 books laid out and I'm making sure this works. And then we didn't have Google then. There wasn't no
Yeah.
Google. There
Yeah.
you had internet. But it wasn't no, you couldn't just type in how's, what is, uh-uh.
Or could you imagine using chat like the equivalent of chat GPT, putting it like, so how do I make, how do I handle this here?
How do I
Right.
cook rice?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're out there like what I get about you then is that like a couple different things. One of them things that like really strikes me is like you're like I was a keeper of the plants even from there, you know.
Yeah.
And I think like outliers, I want you to think about this for yourself right now. What's something that like you might be right now thinking is a brand new thing that you're doing, but you've actually been doing it for decades, just in a different way. So I see that something about that just lit you up.
Exactly.
What came to mind to you when I said there's something that in this question?
Oh, just being marketing is my nemesis. I mean, and I'm learning how to do all of the components of my being my own boss, So yeah, I never thought I'd be doing this, what I'm doing now today.
Well, and then let me ask you, like, because you also said like you've been singing professionally for years. So like, how did you market yourself then?
I had a booking agent, and my
Got you.
booking agent called me every 3 days and booked for this a month here and a month there and 3 weeks here. I used to phone. Those were the days before, in those days when there was music in every club, every lounge, every tavern, every bar. So I
Yeah,
sang in all the lounges. I was sang that kind of middle of the road piano bar lounge stuff. And
love it.
so I really had a phone just to get time off. So for me, I never had to do the marketing, and then I get paid and my agent sent me the check. I never had to ask for money ever. I never had to do the chat, the ask. And that's hard for me. That is hard for me to say
That
my call to action. Like that's difficult for me. I'm just used to just getting it in the mail. I mean, I never had to do that. I never had to negotiate. But as a realtor, and I'm a special accessible barrier-free realtor in homes here in Edmonton. As a negotiator, I can negotiate like crazy for my clients, but not for me. I
Yeah,
find it
this is
really difficult to do it for me, you know, but if I have my clients here and I can be a taskmaster and I master and I can really negotiate good terms for my client, no
yeah.
problem. But when it comes to doing terms for me, oh, I'll just give it to you. I'll just do it free. Just, no problem. Don't pay me. It's okay.
There's something about what you said here, and I'll put it in because it's just flowing through it. Is that um, the element of you being an agent or you working an agent or agency, like there's something there that feels like a through line for you where like you're like I had a booking agent and then I don't know what you did in real estate per se, but I'm like, I think about like real estate agents in that space as well, right? So like you get the agent world, but the thing that's going on through my mind is I'm like, is there the equivalent of the booking agent for the coaching world?
Oh,
Um, and they either find it, and maybe if you're open to it, maybe there's an outlier out there that's listening to it and it's like, I don't want to do the coaching part, but I get how to book and I can be that person for you. And then maybe it's like an awesome like
Ooh,
partnership that goes on there where it's like perhaps you don't have to do anything different. It's just like how does what you have been doing that has been working to you for decades translate into this next part of it? Because most other people on this planet have never been big bang singers. So and they haven't lived your life or the way that you've done it and all that stuff. So like perhaps you don't need to go do it the way that most other people do it. So
yeah.
I'll put that out there, Susan. Just like as you were talking, this came to me.
Well, I'm open to it. I'm open to hearing. I would love that.
Yeah.
Great
All right.
idea.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
idea.
Let's see. Let's see. Someone like outliers surprise me. So outliers, is there any of you out there that either have done this yourself or know of anything? Please connect with Susan.
Yeah, let's
I love, and
collaborate.
then let me know. Let me know. Like, hey, we made this happen.
Yeah,
Yep.
you'll have to get a fee for a referral fee for your idea.
We'll make that come to life. I believe in continuous abundance. So y'all, we are at the top of the hour here. So we're gonna actually like wrap up our conversation so the outliers have a chance to be able to continue down with you, down the path with you. Right? Outliers, like this conversation has been a dynamic one. And if there's someone in your life that you feel would like really benefit from having this, like being a part of this dynamic conversation, please take the time to go and send this message to them. Send this episode to them. The way that we look at it here is yes, put it out on your platforms. We'd love to have it out there. But it's also this underlying mission of like, what if each person who listened to this was able to pass it on to one other person? Very quickly, this becomes something much larger than a random post on social. And this is going to continue to live on as to help people. So that's our ask here to start off here. Just find one person in your life where you feel like this would really resonate with them, and please go ahead and share it with them. Susan Elizabeth, the time is like really just like come on by really quickly. I like to end our conversations with two things. One of them is to let outliers know how they can continue the journey with you. And then the second part is to let us know about like any insight, anything that you learn, anything that you're taking away from any part of this experience here. And if nothing is showing up for you around that, no worries. Just say I'm feeling pretty complete, and that's fine too. All right. So we're going to share how people can reach out to you and continue, and then an insight that you got from the conversation. Why don't we start with you, Elizabeth, and then we'll go to you, Sue, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Um, you can reach me by watching or listening to the Just Dandy podcast. You can find dandelionnorth.com website, and you can locate Dandelion North on YouTube as well. There is an active Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They're all the same, and it's very cohesive, easy to find me. And of course, email. If you go to the website, all the information is listed there, dandelionnorth.com.
Awesome. And is there anything that like an insight, anything that you're taking away from today's conversation?
Um, well, I mean, they're just like me and Susan. There are so many out there who really are thinking I'm by myself, and you're not. But don't ever undermine yourself, and don't forget to reach out. You can always ask the question and give that person permission in advance in your mind. It's okay for them to say no, or I'm not interested, or not me. Because if it's a true meeting that's supposed to happen, there is no coincidences. Everything's already laid out for you somewhere along the way. But if it's truly meant for you to connect with that person, you'll come back around.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. I appreciate you. And then, Sue, why don't you bring us home for today? Let us know about an insight you got and how we can connect with you further.
Okay, yeah, you can connect with me through suejansen.ca is my the podcast, and it houses all my courses and all my everything. So SUE Jansen JANZEN.ca, and CA is for Canada, as you know, that'll help you remember. And I think what I took away the most from this, Niiamah, is, and you're so good at hearing and listening. I love how you take it in and you share back to what you've heard, and I that's a gift. So, but what I do know and what I took away from this is just that we all have our own genius, and we all have so much to offer, and what we want to offer we've already got. So we just have to accept that. I'm also a confidence coach, and I think as a singer, when I went on the stage and I was thinking about what I was looking like or what my hair looked like or what I was dressed in or something, I would get super nervous and just not be able to even, I'd forget words and it would be terrible. But when I only thought about the audience and what I was trying to say to those people, because I wanted my message to get to the audience, it just took it just gave me the confidence I needed to just do what I needed to do and to help others. So I just know that everyone out there has got something just really special inside, and that they're totally able, and it's already there. We just have to find it. We just have to take baby steps.
Well, thank you all for taking the step to come and join me here and share your experiences. Thank you all for taking the steps over and over again to keep like reinventing and growing and bridging into to whatever came next. I appreciate you, Outliers. We're fortunate to have them in our world. And my invitation to you, Outliers, until the next time we talk, remember to be you on purpose. Talk to you soon. Journey on.